I should have known my daughter's 12th birthday would end with my mother laughing, not smiling awkwardly, not trying to calm things down, laughing. It happened in my sister's kitchen, under a banner that still said Happy Birthday, Ellie, in gold paper letters that were already curling at the corners from the steam of too many casseroles and too many people. My daughter Ellie stood by the counter with both hands wrapped around the glass jar she'd been using for almost 2 years. It was one of those old-fashioned jars with a metal clasp and a chalkboard label on the front. She had written flight school dog money in careful block letters. She loved that jar. From the time she was 10, she had walked dogs in our neighborhood. Small ones, nervous ones, one huge golden retriever named Murphy, who dragged her half a block if she forgot to brace her feet. She did it after school, on weekends, in summer heat, and in light rain, always with her little notebook where she tracked every payment. $5 here, 15 there, 20 for a long Saturday walk, birthday cash from my coworkers, Christmas money from two kind neighbors who treated her like a granddaughter. She had saved every bit of it because she wanted one thing, not a phone, not designer shoes, not a gaming console. She wanted to pay for flying lessons one day. I'm Archibald. I'm 42. I'm a pilot based out of Denver, and for most of Ellie's life, she had looked at airplanes the way other kids looked at fireworks. Neck tilted back, mouth a little open, quiet with wonder. So when people asked what a 12-year-old needed $6,700 for, the answer was simple. She had a dream, and she worked for it. That day, she had brought the jar because my sister Felicia insisted on doing a family gift count at the party. She said it would be sweet, transparent, memorable. That was her kind of language. She could dress up anything in a neat little phrase and make it sound harmless. My mother was at the island cutting cake. Felicia was pouring Prosecco into stemless glasses for herself and my mom and my Aunt Denise. The kids were everywhere, wrapping paper under shoes, pink napkins on the floor. My nephew had frosting on his elbow. My daughter was flushed and happy in the way kids get when they still believe a family gathering is actually about them. Then Felicia picked up the jar. At first I thought she was just showing it to people. "Can you believe this?" she said, turning it so the adults could see the bills folded inside. $6,700. From walking dogs. My daughter smiled. "It's 6,740 actually." She was proud. I was proud too. Then Felicia laughed a little and said, "That is insane. She's a child." I stepped closer. "Put it back, Felicia." She didn't. She uncapped the jar and tipped some of the money into her hand like she was checking casino chips. Ellie looked at me first, then at the money in her aunt's hand. "Please don't spill it." Felicia waved her off. "Relax." I remember every detail after that with a kind of ugly clarity. The pale gray marble countertop, the smell of vanilla frosting, my mother's bracelet clinking against her wine glass, my daughter's face going still. Felicia said, "Actually, this solves my problem." Everyone laughed lightly, like she was kidding. She wasn't. She took the stack of cash she'd emptied out, walked it over to her purse on the breakfast nook bench, and slid it inside. Ellie stared at her. "That's mine." Felicia turned back like this was all perfectly normal. "Sweetheart, you don't even know what money is. I'm borrowing it. We already booked the spa weekend in Scottsdale and the girls paid their shares except me. I'll replace it." My daughter blinked hard. "No, that's my money." And that was when my mother laughed. She actually wiped at her eye. "She's a kid." She said, "She doesn't know what money is." The room did that strange thing rooms do when something cruel happens in public. Everyone looked everywhere except the place they should have looked. At the child. At the theft. At the line that had just been crossed. My throat went tight. My hands were steady, but only because I made them be. Ellie did not cry. That made it worse. She just stood there in her paper birthday crown, her shoulders getting smaller by the second. I said nothing. Not there. Not in front of the cake and candles and my mother with frosting on her fingers and my sister with my daughter's money inside her purse, like it belonged there. I walked over to Ellie, took the jar from the counter, set it back in her hands, and said, "Go get your sweater. Bug." She looked up at me. "But my money, I know." Her chin trembled once. She nodded and went to the mudroom. Felicia gave that irritated little exhale she always used when anyone interrupted her sense of entitlement. Oh, come on, Archie, don't be dramatic. I looked at her for maybe 2 seconds. No raised voice, no speech, just a look. Then I picked up our car keys, thanked the few people who had actually brought gifts for Ellie, and left with my daughter before the candles were lit. The whole drive home, Ellie held the empty jar in her lap. The dog walking notebook was tucked under it, pages bent from use. On the cover, she had drawn wings around her initials. She kept staring out the window at nothing. We passed the grocery store, the gas station, the little park with the duck pond. Her face stayed blank. Finally, she asked, in that soft, careful voice she used when she already knew the answer might hurt. Did I do something wrong? I had heard a lot of ugly things in my family over the years, about me, about money, about obligation, about what family owes family. But nothing had ever landed inside me like that question. No, I said, not one thing. Then why did Aunt Felicia take it? Because she thought she could. Because my mother taught her she could. Because for years I had made myself useful enough that they forgot I was a person and not a backup account. I didn't say any of that to my daughter. I said because she was wrong, and because I should have stopped this a long time ago. That night, Ellie put the empty jar on our kitchen table and went to her room without touching the leftovers I'd packed for us. She always drew when she was upset. Usually airplanes, runways, clouds, tiny windows with rows of little faces. That night, she drew nothing. She just sat on her bed with Murphy's leash looped beside her desk and her notebook open to the page where she'd written. Total saved. $6,740. I stood in the hallway and hated myself for every smaller thing I had let slide before it became this. Because this had not started with a jar. It had started years earlier, after my divorce, when I became the reliable one, the one with a stable salary, the one who knew how to move money quickly, fill out forms, read contracts, wire deposits, untangle fees, and fix family emergencies with a few taps on a banking app from an airport hotel at midnight. Felicia had always been my mother's favorite. It wasn't even hidden. Felicia was charming when she wanted something and helpless when charm failed. She went through jobs, through plans, through apartments, through men who were temporary setbacks. Somehow, there was always a reason she just needed one more hand, getting her across one more bridge. I paid her rent once, then twice. I covered 6 months of my mother's medications when her insurance changed, and she needed time to sort things out. I paid my mother's overdue property taxes one winter because she cried on the phone and said she was too old to deal with. Notices from the county. I loaned Felicia $8,000 for a business launch that turned out to be custom shelving, a logo designer, and a sofa for a boutique she shut down in 4 months. There was always a story. I was about to board a red-eye to Atlanta once when my mother called saying Felicia's car was going to be repossessed. I sent $3,200 from Gate B17. Last spring, Felicia found a condo she couldn't afford, then cried about how unfair the market was. I told her not to buy. My mother said I was being cold. 2 weeks later, I was the one who paid the earnest money she lost when the financing fell through. None of this was ever called what it was. Dependence, exploitation, entitlement. It was called helping. And I helped because I had spent half my life being praised for being calm and useful, because flying taught me how to manage emergencies, and my family turned their poor planning into a permanent emergency. Because every time I thought about pulling back, my mother would say something soft and poisonous like, "You're the only one we can rely on." Ellie saw more than I realized. She saw the grocery gift cards I mailed to Grandma. She saw me in my uniform at the kitchen table, laptop open, moving numbers around while the microwave clock blinked 11:48 p.m. She saw the birthday gifts we bought for cousins who never thanked her for the handmade cards she gave them. She saw the way my mother forgot her favorite color, her school name, her dog's name, but never forgot to ask me whether I could spot your sister just until closing. And the apartment. That was the biggest one. 3 months before Ellie's birthday, Felicia called me from a showroom with fake brick walls and industrial lighting, and told me she had finally found the perfect apartment. 2 bedrooms, corner unit, walking distance to everything. There was a balcony she called European because the railing was black. She was breathless with it. She had a realtor. She had mood boards. She had already mentally arranged furniture she didn't own. What she did not have was a down payment. I said no the first time. My mother called 30 minutes later and told me not to crush my sister's chance to finally be stable. Then Felicia cried. Then my mother got quiet in that wounded way that had worked on me since I was 7. Then I did what I often did when peace was more expensive than truth. I agreed. $44,000, not as a gift, technically, as a family loan, temporary, documented later. Paid back when she could kid. Even writing that now makes me feel stupid. I had not sent it yet because the realtor wanted confirmation the following Monday. I had the amount sitting in a separate account ready to wire. I had already told Felicia I would do it. So on the night of my daughter's birthday, after I tucked Ellie in and sat beside her while she pretended to sleep, I walked back to my kitchen, opened my laptop, and looked at that account. $44,000. The amount I had promised for my sister's new apartment. And next to it, on the table, sat my daughter's empty jar. That was the moment the years clicked into one clear shape. This was not about a spa weekend. It was about what my family thought belonged to them. My time, my salary, my steadiness, my silence, even my child's labor if it was sitting within reach on a birthday table. I did not call anyone. I did not write a dramatic text. I logged in, transferred the $44,000 back into Ellie's education and trust fund allocation account. Then moved an additional $6,740 from my checking into a new savings account in her name. I added one more line item from my bonus and rounded it up to $10,000. Then I saved the confirmation PDFs. Then I emailed the realtor. The email was simple. I will not be providing the promised wire transfer for Felicia Merrow's down payment. Please remove my information from the transaction immediately. Any prior verbal commitment from me is withdrawn effective now. I read it twice, sent it. Then I called my bank and removed my mother from the emergency access profile she still had from years ago, back when I traveled internationally more often and thought that kind of thing was practical. I canceled the weekly auto transfer I'd been sending her for groceries. I shut down the shared household bill wallet I had foolishly kept open just in case. Confirmation screen after confirmation screen, no shouting, no warning, no speech, just closed doors. Monday morning, I flew to Phoenix. By the time I landed, my phone had lit up enough to warm my pocket. 9 missed calls from Felicia, 3 from my mother, 2 voicemails from numbers I didn't know, one of which I guessed was the realtor's office. A text from my mother, call your sister right now. Another, the realtor just called her to confirm the wire transfer and said, there isn't one. What did you do? And then Felicia, are you serious? I sat in the crew shuttle looking out at the dry flat morning and the hotel vans lined up by the curb and felt strangely calm. I texted one sentence. I won't fund a family that steals for my daughter. That was all. The rest came fast. Felicia called while I was checking into my hotel. I answered because I wanted the line clear. She started screaming before I said hello. How dare I humiliate her? The contract, the seller, the inspection fees, the embarrassment, the timing, the cruelty. She said the spa money was a misunderstanding. She said she would have replaced it. She said Ellie was spoiled. She said I had just destroyed her only chance at security over cash in a jar. I let her empty herself out. Then I said, you took money from a 12-year-old at her birthday party. Felicia snapped. Oh my God, Archie. She didn't even earn it like an adult. There it was, the core of it. Not just that Ellie was a child, that she was not real in the same moral category as they were. Her work was cute. Her dreams were decorative. Her savings were available. I said, you're off my accounts. The apartment money is gone. We're done discussing it. Then I hung up. My mother took a different approach. She left a long voicemail full of injury and theater. She said family shouldn't make each other homeless. She said I was punishing everyone over a joke. She said Ellie needed to learn generosity. Then, almost as an afterthought, she laughed a little and said, honestly, Archie, it's not like the girl was investing it. That voicemail ended something in me permanently. By Wednesday, my mother had switched to guilt. By Thursday, she switched to rage. By Friday, she was telling relatives I had been manipulated by pilot money arrogance, as if keeping my daughter's stolen savings and my own promised funds under my control was some kind of disease. My aunt Denise texted that I should think about the ripple effects. My cousin Aaron asked if there was a way I could at least cover half. Felicia sent me screenshots of apartments she would now lose because of me. Not one person asked how Ellie was. Not one person said Felicia should return the money today. That mattered. The first decent person to speak plainly was my neighbor Mrs. Calder, 70 if she was a day, who had paid Ellie $20 every Saturday for walking her terrier even when the dog barely made it to the mailbox. I was home between trips, standing in my driveway with Murphy's leash in one hand and my flight bag in the other, when Mrs. Calder crossed over holding a white envelope. "I heard from Denise," she said, "which means the whole town will hear by lunch." I almost apologized for the mess of it. She held up a hand. "Don't. I came for your girl." Inside the envelope was a bank receipt. The envelope was a bank receipt. Mrs. Envelope was a bank receipt. Calder had deposited $300 into Ellie's new savings account because, in her words, nobody gets to teach a working child that her money belongs to louder adults. I had to look away for a second. That evening, I told Ellie what I had done. Not all the ugly details, just the part that mattered. "I put your birthday money back," I said, "and more. It's in your account now. No one can touch it." She sat across from me at the kitchen table in an oversized t-shirt with Murphy asleep on her socked feet. "Is Aunt Felicia mad?" "Yes." "Is Grandma mad?" "Yes." She looked down at the grain of the wood table for a long moment. Then she asked, "Are you mad at me?" That question, again. I went around to her side and crouched beside her chair. "Ellie, listen to me. None of this is because of you. This happened because I let people act badly for too long. I'm not doing that anymore." She nodded, but tears filled her eyes anyway. "I really did know what money was," she whispered. I laughed once, softly, because if I didn't, I might have broken in half. "I know you did." A week later, Felicia showed up at my house with our mother. No call first, just the sharp knock I recognized from childhood, the one that meant they expected the door to open, because they were family and therefore entitled to entry. I stepped onto the porch and closed the door behind me. Felicia looked tired in an expensive way. Hair blown out, nails fresh, sunglasses on her head, like props from a life she still thought she deserved. My mother had her wounded face on. Felicia held out an envelope. "Here. Happy now." Inside was $2,100. Not even a third. I handed it back. The amount taken was $6,740. She rolled her eyes. "I told you, I used some of it already. I'm giving it back in pieces." My mother cut in. "Archie, be reasonable. The seller already moved on. That apartment is gone. Your sister is devastated." I said, "My daughter was devastated on her birthday. Don't use that tone with me." I almost smiled at that. Not from humor, from clarity. The old script was so tired now. I'll use the exact tone this situation deserves. Felicia crossed her arms. "You really blew up my whole future over a spa trip." "No," I said. "You blew up your future when you stole from my child and expected me to fund your life anyway." My mother made that disgusted little sound she made when truth landed where she couldn't rearrange it. "This is money," she said. "Families get past money." I looked straight at her. "No. Families get past mistakes when people admit them. What you wanted was access." No one spoke for a second. Then I gave them the only offer I was willing to make. "You will repay Ellie every dollar. Until then, do not come here without asking. Do not come here without asking. Do not contact her directly. Do not ask me for money for anything. I am not your backup bank." My mother looked stunned, like I had slapped her with a sentence. Felicia said, "You're choosing a kid over your sister." I said, "Yes." And that was that. They left angry. The texts kept coming for another month, but the tone changed once they realized the money doors were truly closed. My mother missed her utility bill auto pay and had to call the company herself. Felicia moved into a smaller rental farther from the shopping district she loved to photograph for social media. My aunt and niece stopped forwarding me family sale listings and started, awkwardly, asking after Ellie. A few cousins drifted out of the orbit when my card stopped covering half the fuel of every gathering. Funny how quickly family narrows when the free money does. Felicia repaid the stolen amount in uneven chunks. 600, 400, 900, sometimes with bitter memo lines like for the little banker, or apparently urgent. I screenshotted every transfer. I did not respond to the comments. I only recorded the balance until it hit zero. Ellie never asked to see them. She kept walking dogs. That was the part that made me proudest. She did not become fearful about money. She became clearer. She bought herself a locking cash box with her own key. She switched from the old glass jar to a ledger notebook and a kid's savings app I helped her set up. She started using words like goal amount and monthly total in a serious little voice that sounded so much like mine, it startled me. Near the end of summer, I was off for 4 days in a row. No trips, no deadhead flights, no hotel rooms, just home. On the second morning, Ellie came downstairs in pajama shorts with her hair flattened on one side and said, "Can we do my birthday over?" Not the party, the day. So we did, just us. I hung a new gold banner in our kitchen, not perfect, a little crooked. We made pancakes with too many chocolate chips. Mrs. Calder came by with Murphy and a card. Two neighbors, Ellie's dogs, belonged to dropped off little gifts. One of my co-pilot friends stopped in wearing his uniform and brought Ellie a model airplane kit. We ate cake from a small bakery downtown. Nobody touched anything that wasn't theirs. At one point, Ellie set her new cash box on the table beside the cake plates and laughed because Murphy kept trying to sniff the metal latch. That sound settled something in me. Not revenge, not triumph, just rightness. That evening, after the dishes were done and the paper plates were in the trash, I found one thing under Ellie's chair. A folded sheet from her old dog walking notebook. On it, she had drawn an airplane in blue pen, me in the front seat, her in the seat behind me, smiling with a headset on, and under it, in careful handwriting, "People should protect the person who earned it." I kept that page. It's in my flight bag now, tucked into the zip pocket where I keep passport copies and spare pens and the things I do not want to lose. My mother never apologized in any full, honest way. Not really. Felicia once said, months later, "I guess I didn't think she'd care that much." As if that was better. As if the problem had been a child's attachment level and not an adult's theft. But distance did what arguments never did. It made the truth plain. My family had confused my reliability for permission. They thought because I stayed calm, I would stay available. Because I paid before, I would pay forever. Because Ellie was young, her work counted less. Because I was useful, my boundaries were optional. They were wrong. And the quietest part of this whole thing was also the most important. I did not ruin them. I simply stopped cushioning the consequences of what they chose to do. That is different. A few weeks ago, Ellie and I drove past the old condo building Felicia once wanted so badly. Ellie didn't know it was the one. She was too busy pointing out a tiny plane crossing the evening sky. "Do you think the pilot can see the sun better from up there?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Probably." She nodded like that made sense and went back to her cookie. I kept driving. No speech, no bitterness, no ache sharp enough to name anymore. Just my daughter beside me. Her money safe, her trust slowly healing, the sky opening over the road ahead. And that, in the end, was worth more than any apartment I could have bought for someone who laughed while a child was robbed. Some lessons cost money. This one cost me a family illusion, and $44,000 I never should have promised in the first place. I don't regret losing either. What I kept was better. I kept my daughter's dignity. I kept my word to the only person in that kitchen who had actually earned what was in her jar. And I learned something I wish I had learned years earlier. Helping people who disrespect your child is not kindness. It is surrender dressed up as love. Boundaries are not cruelty. They are protection. And when a child watches you choose that protection calmly, clearly, and without apology, you give them something far more valuable than money. You give them a model for how not to be used.